This conference is no longer being recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we're now being recorded. I'd like to welcome everybody. I'd like to call the Thursday, October 15th, 2020 regular meeting of the North Augusta Planning Commission to order. And as always, we will start off with a roll call, and I will, as usual, say commissioner and your last name, and then you will affirm with your first and last name. Is Commissioner Key here? All right. Commissioner Mackey?
Yes.
State your name, Joanne. Say Joanne Mackey.
Yes, Joanne Mackey.
Thank you. Commissioner Watts? Commissioner Crawford?
Present, Christine Crawford.
Commissioner Clark?
Bob Clark.
Commissioner Carter?
Lynn Carter, present.
And Britton Williams. So approval of the minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? If not, they are approved as distributed. Ms. Hodges, do you have any? Commissioner Key has just arrived. Commissioner Key, are you on the line now?
I am. Can you hear me?
Just state your first and last name for the record, please.
Timothy Key.
Fantastic. Great to have you, Tim. Okay. Mrs. Hodges, any changes to the agenda?
I have none.
Okay. The only thing I want to just remind everybody is if you remember item 7, Sweetwater Townhomes, and item 9, Sibley Bluff Subdivision, both those were tabled last month with the idea that the waiver request would be coming in this month, which they have. So once we address the waiver request, then we will have to have a motion to take the 2 items off the table, but that will come after we deal with the waiver request for each. So I just want to give everybody a reminder of that. So at this point, we're going to jump right in with RZT 20-003 Special Exceptions and Overlay Districts. A request by the City of North Augusta to amend Article 3 Zoning Districts, Section 3.8.6.2 permitted uses in the NP Neighborhood Preservation Corridor Overlay District of the North Augusta Development Code to allow special exceptions as granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals within the overlay districts. So this is considered a legislative public hearing, so we will allow any public requests that have come in. And also we are considering a text amendment. So we will be making a recommendation to City Council. So with that, I'm going to open up the public hearing. And then Ms. Hodges, is there anything you'd like to share with the commissioners?
Just to give you a brief rundown of how we got here, recently we had a case that came to the Board of Zoning Appeals that was within the Neighborhood Preservation District. And in doing further research about the special exception, it came to our attention that they were not allowed in the Neighborhood Preservation Overlay, and staff has presented this text amendment to rectify what we think are some inconsistencies between the comprehensive plan, the development code, and some of the stated intentions of the Neighborhood Preservation Overlay.
Okay. Ms. Hodges, I'm assuming, are you going to be representing the city as applicant too?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm going to open it up to commissioners. If you have any questions for Ms. Hodges, this will be the time to ask concerning this.
In reading through the information in which we had, I was looking for a lot more slashes and underlining. Am I missing something? Was it just one broad statement? I'm trying to scroll back to where I had the notes.
For the text amendment itself?
Yeah.
It's just one line.
Okay. Give me What page is it on?
If you look in your staff report,
I
it's on
see, I
page
got
5.
it. It's 3.8.6.2.3.
That's right.
Okay, all right.
And at the back of your packet, there is also the written text of that section of the code that has the change on it.
All right, so Libby, I had underlined 3.8623, permitted non-residential uses may be located on the first floor only. You're striking that off?
No, what is proposed to be removed is 3.8.6.2.3, which states that no use which requires a special exception is permitted.
That's the top of page 5.
On page 5 of the packet. Yes.
Oh, yes. So did we leave in the thing about you can only be on the first floor?
Yes, that remains.
So I just questioned that of why that would be.
It's my understanding that that would be in response to properties that are changing over into a new use.
Right. So, like if you were, I mean, y'all can just say this has nothing to do with it, but like if you are talking about having a bar on the upper floor and on the first floor you had a restaurant, that would be impossible. Right? Wrong?
Libby's muted.
Oh, I'm muting myself?
No,
No,
I was muted. I was talking to myself. But I can see where you could read it that way, and it could definitely be interpreted that way. And as I talked about in the staff report, if this was intended to use, some of these great big old houses,
Yeah.
that could be problematic on the second floor. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like, like the house up downtown, if that has a motel at the top, I'm just thinking that infill of these old houses like our house, like Hammond House, all of those houses, then a lot of the new trend everywhere I'm going is upstairs on the porch upstairs is a bar. That's just the new rage, I guess.
Joy, I think your points are really good. And my take on this is that's what's going to happen through the redevelopment code rewrite. Get into the specifics of the overlays. This is strictly, we only can address the one item in the one piece of the text. So part of where that falls under, in my opinion, I agree with you. It's a valid point. And I may be off on this, Libby, but really that's going to come into play if we're looking at rewriting the overlay code. And that's a conversation for the development code rewrite. Am I correct or am I mistaken?
I think that's also a very good point. I'm thinking, what I'm thinking through is bed and breakfasts are under the residential use portion of our code currently. So I wouldn't necessarily classify that as a commercial use or non-residential use. However, the argument could be made if they're not living there, it's not a residential use. So
that Libby is what I was talking about. Like if you look at a bed and breakfast, does it count that's quote, in my mind, my terminology, a motel room upstairs? So
I think that could be a very fine line that we would have to that we would have to walk on that. I think an easy fix to that would be potentially to add language that says except for permitted special exceptions.
Okay. So do you
I
do
mean-
that or wait?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to do that tonight or wait like Britton's
Well,
saying?
that can be part of your recommendation,
Okay.
but I think that's
I'll let
that's an excellent
I'll let
point.
Christine, yeah, I think we need to, yeah, okay, because I just think the trends now of the pretty stuff happening everywhere we need to go ahead and address it, but however you want to do it, that was what I
Tell
had
me
marked.
where that is specifically you're talking about, Joanne.
Page, it's on page 4, page 4, 3862.1.
Permitted non-resident may be located on the first floor only. Upper stories may be used for resident and accessory studios only. Parking is not permitted. Permitted.
Yeah, that's where I had stricken out that I thought it should have been stricken, but I didn't know if I was supposed to say that, but anyway.
That can be
Well, no,
done.
that's a good point.
Don't we have some exceptions to that already? I mean, or do we not? Am I missing something? I mean.
You mean for existing
Right,
properties?
Yes.
There may be some that already had those uses when this was adopted,
Right.
and that wouldn't have, they would have been, what we call grandfathered
Right.
or existing nonconformity.
Mhm.
Or nobody got it checked out and they did it and it's just been there forever.
Well,
Okay, well,
Before I ask
that could be it.
any public comments, are there any other questions from commissioners?
I have a question. Libby, how are we preparing ourselves for the eventuality of a lot of these large homes and urban life being more predominant, the conversion from a primary residence to on these primary roads? How are we getting to the point where we don't planning nor zoning has to make these decisions per unit? Are we moving in a direction that some of these things can be accommodated for the just conversion of the city? I mean, is this the first step?
Well, the way it's written right now in the neighborhood so I guess the short answer to your question is that it depends on where it is. So I think that was somewhat the intention of the neighborhood preservation overlay, was to kind of control that switch
Conversion.
over to commercial in what has in the past been a predominantly residential area. So this is kind of sidestepping some of that. Some of these discussions we're going to have as part of the development code rewrite, and also as the comprehensive plan rewrite when we get to that point as well. So,
You answer my question.
yeah, this potentially could address some of those, but this isn't going to. It isn't going to swing us all the way one way or the other.
this,
Just for everybody's benefit, I think, we've got a steering committee working, we're paying a consultant a chunk of money. We've just got started good. And those are the kind of things that need to be coming into this committee so this consultant can look at them, and we change them all at one time, and it should be happening for too long. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think it ought to be part of this look at the overlay districts, which is taking place.
Good points. Okay, any other all good questions, good points so far. Any other questions for Ms. Hodges before I ask for public comments?
The only question, this is Lynn, the only question I would have is what, are we privy to know what triggered it? What triggered the need for it? I mean.
In this case, it was the Hammond House.
Okay.
And I'll go forward to the map. I didn't realize that the neighborhood preservation went as far out as it did. I thought it stopped a little further south. And I don't know how well you can see the blue hatching on this. kind of all the way down, but it goes all the way out to almost to I-20 down Martintown Road.
Well, I think we've said as a commission that the overlays need to be looked at in detail anyway. So that's,
And this is kind of a baby step. This isn't a full reevaluation at this time. That is what we intend for the development code rewrite.
and it still gives us the opportunity for Board of Zoning and Appeals to say yay or nay. So I don't really have a problem with it.
At this point, I'll ask Ms. Hodges, have we received any public comments?
I did not receive any public comments for this application.
Okay. Surprise. Okay.
I kind of am too.
Me too.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. And at this point, questions between commissioners and at this point. All right, if there's no further questions or comments, I would entertain a motion. And Ms. Mackey, if you are interested in, changing that other sentence, then somebody would need to make that in the motion.
Christine will do it for me.
No, so I agree with it, but I don't, again, I'm kind of on the fence. Well, not on the fence with regards to, I think that's the kind of, well, but you're saying that it needs to be consistent. Because I was going to say, I think that the other case around second floor usage, I think will come in the development. Now, but let me ask this, Libby. For Hammond House, if he uses it as a bed and breakfast, because that's what we're talking about, then do we need to change that so that it's consistent for him to be able to?
I would recommend changing it to be consistent. That way there's no question about.
Okay. So then we need to,
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, Christine, but what I was going to say is, when I read that, I thought, well, that knocks out using that upstairs. Well, see, then you're going to have, someone come before the city and go, how's he doing that? That's not in the code. But if we go ahead and cover it, it'll be in the code.
And I think it's important to point out as well, and I'm sorry, we're kind of getting a little off on comments here, Britton. But I think I think it's important to point out that the cases that go before the Board of Zoning Appeals, they are able to place conditions on the properties. So there are conditions, they could potentially condition it to prohibit use of a second floor in a commercial setting. So if that is an issue or something that a neighbor is concerned about, they could come, provide those comments to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Board of Zoning Appeals could potentially have a condition related to that.
So I have one other question though. Are we okay on the public notice because that text was not included, was not stricken through? Are we okay on
part of the deliberation? And it would just be that the recommendation that I give to City Council would have that language in it.
Okay.
If that's what's decided through the process.
All right, Jody.
That's good.
Also, too,
I'll entertain a motion.
okay, go ahead, Christine.
No, does it need to be two separate motions? That's what the other thing I was going to ask.
I think it can be one motion. You'll just have to state where and what you want to change.
All right. I move to remove section 3.8.6.2.1, which talks about permitted non-residential uses only being the first floor only, and the edit of 3.8.623 as recommended, which is changing it to uses which require special exception may be granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals with conditions.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Crawford to approve as requested the text of taking out 3.8.6.23, along with the permitted non-residential uses may be located on the first floor only of 3.8 8.6.21. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Mackey, second. Is there any conversation between commissioners? Okay, and just for roll call, so we can just know where everybody's voting, I'll just go with a roll call and just say yes or no. Commissioner Key?
Yay.
Commissioner Mackey?
Yes.
I don't believe, Commissioner Crawford?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
And Commissioner Britton Williams, yes. So that is unanimously 6-4 and 0 against. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that insight, Joanne, and the comments from everybody. Very good. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's jump into get on my page 8. Okay. All right, this will be a quasi judicial hearing, which means I will be swearing in the applicant and whoever else with the applicant will be speaking. But we will begin by starting at item number 6, MW 20-005 Sweetwater Townhomes Connectivity Waiver. A request by Winchester Home Builders for approval of a waiver to the connectivity standards of section 14.19.1 connectivity ratio of the North Augusta Development Code for the proposed Sweetwater Townhome subdivision. The request affects approximately 12.4 acre zone PD plan development TPN 010-11-05-001. And as I said, this is a public hearing and we are considering a waiver request. So at this point, I will open the public hearing and I'm assuming, Mr. Green, Philip, you're going to be the talking for the applicant?
Yes, sir.
I would ask that you raise your hand and say, I swear to tell the whole truth.
I swear to tell the whole truth.
All right, very good. You're sworn in. All right, at this point, any comments, Ms. Hodges, you'd like to share with us about this?
This is related to the preliminary plat that we received at the last meeting. Additional information has been provided. The application was provided. And if you have any particular questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay. Comments for Ms. Hodges?
What was the previous use for this property that we dealt with in the past? Proposed and it didn't happen. What was it? Philip, do you know?
I don't.
It wasn't the water park, was it?
That's what I was thinking. Was it the water park?
I think that was further north.
Yeah, it's farther out.
Was it further down? Okay.
All right, so
How much further down?
I'm sorry, was there a question from Ms. Hodges? All right, Mr. Green, we'll turn it over to you if you'd like to share anything concerning the criteria that we'll be voting on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We briefly touched on the project at the last month's meeting prior to being tabled, but as you are probably aware, it's a townhome project whose access is along the gas line easement and then incorporates about 12 acres there, as you can see on the map. We're in a somewhat unique position of being part of the PD plan, but being the first person to get to that side of the property. As such, the property that fronts Highway 25 there is part of the commercial PD, and it will have some connectivity to the back and these residential portions of the PD. However, until that connection is made, we fall below the city's required connectivity ratio. And one of the things that we've done is these hammerhead cul-de-sacs have actually changed into standard circular cul-de-sacs. that would create a temporary node, as I noted there, and provide a spot for future connection once the PD, the commercial side of the PD is brought up from Highway 25. We would do whatever we need to do as far as bringing that all the way to our property line to allow for that future connection. I guess we could potentially leave out a section of curb and gutter. Not that I think wise. I wouldn't want people just coming through that neighborhood and driving off the road into that future commercial spot. But we'll do everything we can to accommodate those future connections. And once those are made, we'll be well above the city's connectivity ratio in the ordinance.
Philip, I've got a question for you too. Did Winchester Development, did they develop the previous section that is attached to that?
No, sir. This is their first development within this PD.
Okay, so my question is that brought up in staff report is the parcel that you're talking about in the future that would tie in with the highest ratio for the connectivity. That is currently a different developer, right? That is not anything that y'all are doing?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, questions for Mr. Green from commissioners?
Have you all taken into consideration emergency vehicles in the meanwhile the other parcels are connected to it? And just looking at this development, I was not at the last.
I had looked at the topography map that you had sent us. And the back.
Joanne, we can't hear you.
I think where Joanne was going with that, if I recall at the last meeting, the question was the topography behind us, which is still, I believe, part of a residential portion of the PD. As you can see from that map, it has some challenging topography on it, but that is outside of the property, which is Sweetwater Townhomes. My owner, Winchester Development, does not have any interest in that piece. That would have to be developed at some point in the future by somebody else. I would also, I guess, also on making that tie to the commercial, even though it would be another separate developer, obviously whatever development plans would have to come through the city, and they could make that part of those development plans, make those connections to ensure that all the ratios were met.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Have they done some other development before, Mr. Green, that have a single entrance
What's
like
the topography back?
with this size townhomes?
Going back just off of memory, I believe was it Greystone, just down Walnut Lane. I'd have to look at the numbers, but at build out, it would have to have been when it was originally approved. I think they may have made that connection over to the SRP site, crossing that detention pond. That's sort of the only one in the vicinity that comes to mind. Of course, the Sweetwater Commons connection in the back, I guess, has that single connection in the off that off the end of Walnut Lane there.
Other questions?
Was my question addressed? And then it go over my head.
Concerning
emergency vehicles?
Concerning the emergency vehicles, the width of the road, the cul-de-sacs, the turnaround ratios.
Yeah, so and again, and I apologize, I didn't get a revised plan to Ms. Hodges, but the hammerhead turnarounds, which are shown on that 40-foot radius or 80-foot diameter cul-de-sacs, which are sufficient for school bus, emergency vehicles, trash trucks, etc. And the road width is a standard road width in the city of North Augusta that would meet those requirements also.
Good question. Any others? Okay, Ms. Hodges, do we have any public comments?
I did not receive any public comments.
Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing. And any further questions among commissioners or any other questions for the applicant? Okay, so here's how we'll do this. As always, as a reminder, we have 5 criteria to determine the waiver request, and I will ask you, do you believe, and then I'm going to go through the roll call, and all you have to answer, there'll be 5 of them, and I'll read each one, and when I call your name, you'll say yes or no. So, do you believe the proposed waiver does not appear to conflict with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan or the proposals underlying the standard? Commissioner Key.
I agree. Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Mackey.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawford.
Yes.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
And yes for myself, Britton Williams. Okay, do you believe, number 2, the applicant demonstrates through documentation and or studies based on generally accepted engineering principles that adherence to the standard provided by this chapter would pose a threat to health and safety or would undermine a policy set forth in the comprehensive plan or the purposes underlining the standard? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey?
Yes.
Commissioner Crawford?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
And yes, Britton Williams. All right, number 3, do you believe the applicant consents to an alternative standard and the planning commission finds that such standard is consistent with the comprehensive plan, will protect the public health, safety, and general welfare, and is consistent with the purposes underlining the standard? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
And yes, Britton Williams. Number 4, do you believe the economic burden imposed on the applicant to comply with the generally applicable standard outweighs a public purpose for such standard? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey?
Yeah.
Commissioner Mackey?
Yes.
Just keep your thing on. Commissioner Crawford?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
And yes, Britton Williams. And finally, do you believe compliance with the generally applicable standard is impracticable due to unique topographical or other site conditions? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey?
Yes.
Commissioner Crawford?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Are you not?
Yes. Okay. So at this point, I will make give Ms. Crawford night off. I will make the motion based on the findings of the 5 discussed criteria and voted on. I move that applicant MW20-005 Sweetwater Townhomes connectivity waiver of North Augusta Development Code, Section 14.19.1, connectivity ratio be granted with the 5 conditions listed in staff report on page 7. Chairman Williams has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second is Commissioner Crawford. All right, and
Britton, are you going to include any conditions? That probably needs to be part of your motion.
I did. I just said with the 5 conditions listed in staff report.
Okay, I apologize.
That's all right. Do I need to list each individual? Are you fine with this? Just listed in staff report on page 7?
Unless there's something you want to change, I don't need anything.
There's not. Okay, good. All right, so at this point, we'll go through Commissioner Key.
Yay.
Commissioner Mackey.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawford.
Yes.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Britton Williams, yes. So we have unanimous for that. So very good. Okay. All right. We are now at number 7, and I will take a motion to take this item PP 20-005 Sweetwater Townhomes, a request by Winchester Home Builders for approval of a major subdivision preliminary plat for 77 townhouses. The request affects approximately 12.4 acre zone PD plan development, TPN 010-11-05-001. I would accept the motion to take this off the table.
So move.
Okay, Commissioner Key, is there a second?
Second, Clark.
Okay, and my understanding is we didn't have to vote to put it on the table, but I do believe we have to vote to take it off. So we'll go Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawford,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
and yes from Britton Williams. So it has come off the table. At this point, I would open it up. Anything you want to share, Ms. Hodges, to the commission?
I believe we've covered one of the major concerns from our previous presentation to the Planning Commission. If there's any particular questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
This may be a question for Philip. Is the updated traffic study, that won't be, that's not necessarily something that has to be done, right?
I don't believe so. It has not been requested from staff yet.
I know it was in the staff report that y'all hadn't proposed. I just want to make sure wasn't anything in particular that you had to come up with. Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Hodges? Okay, Mr. Green, anything you'd like to share with the commission?
I'll try to be brief. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chairman. As we touched on, it is townhome development as part of the overall Sweetwater PD. The access coming from the land along the gas easement, creating those 2 commercial properties, and then that connection road ending where it turns into the townhomes with 2 cul-de-sacs on there for developed or going to be built to have future connectivity back to the commercial part of the PD that leads back to 25. We have gone through a round of comments with the city. I believe I've got stormwater satisfied, and I am working through some of the other questions and issues with engineering and planning. Nothing that can't be resolved that I see on the comments. the waiver being one of the things, and the other is just getting that updated circulation and utility plan for the overall PD, which I think I sent back over earlier this week. Ms. Hodges can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but we're making progress to get all that and then finalize the plans. But I can answer any questions that the commission may have.
I probably should know this, but I don't remember this being brought up. Tell me exactly, or Ms. Hodge, either one, what does the circulation plan, what exactly does that entail?
So that is a plan required by the PD, and that will be something that more specifically shows how this is going to connect to the larger development. There's also some breaks in access over on the other side where we did some previous work where stowaway storage was proposed to be, but that never, that hasn't come completely to fruition.
Okay.
There are some other items that we would need to address on that in an overall plan. That's
Okay.
kind of the point of the PD.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Philip, any sort of price point as far as what you're expecting right now?
I don't. I wish TJ was on the line. I wish I could answer that question, but yeah, I'm sorry.
That's fine. More curious than anything. That's all.
Anything else for the applicant? Okay, comments between commissioners, anything anybody has? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve PP 20-05 Sweetwater Townhomes.
Okay.
The request by Winchester Home Builders for approval of a major subdivision preliminary plat for 77 townhouse.
Great. Is there a second?
I second.
Commissioner Crawford? Okay. Any discussion? If not, we will do roll call. Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey? Commissioner Mackey? Yeah, the time with your microphone tonight. Okay. Commissioner Crawford?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Yes, Britton Williams, and I'll give you one last chance. Commissioner Mackey? Joanne?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, it is unanimous. So, thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Commission.
No, I don't know what's going on.
Miss Mackey may have a little bit of a delay.
That's all right. I'll slow it down. I'm going too fast. Okay, we are at item number 8 and MW.
Yes. Get it good?
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on now. MW 20-006 Sibley Bluff Connectivity and Block Length Waivers. A request by Bill Hollingsworth for approval of waivers for connectivity and block length of section 4 street types and design in section 14.19.1 connectivity ratio of the North Augusta Development Code for the proposed Sibley Bluff subdivision. The request affects approximately 5.68 acre portion of TPN 003-08-07-001 zone R14 large lot single family residential. This is a quasi judicial hearing, and I will open up the public hearing now, and I will, if the applicant, if you would, state your name and address for the record so I can swear you in.
Hello, my name's Justin Perker. I'm with JLA. I'm a civil engineer for the project. Address is 293 Meadow Lake Drive in Martinez.
Fantastic. Nice to have you with us, Justin. Thank you, sir. And Justin, do you swear to tell the whole truth?
Yes, sir. Swear to tell the whole truth. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. Staff report. Anything, Ms. Hodges, you'd like to share with us about this?
Certainly, this is a return of a project that we did see the preliminary plat application for last time. And this is the waiver request that goes with that report. And if you have any particular questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Questions? Okay. Any questions for the applicant from commissioners? This is like the third time this has come in front of us, hasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
This will be the last time.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're going to find out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. All right. No questions for the applicant? Okay. So as always, we have 5 criteria to determine the waiver request. And I will again ask each of these, do you believe? And I'll read it, then do the roll call, yes or no. Do you believe, number 1, the proposed waiver does not appear to conflict with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan or the purposes underlying the standard? Commissioner Key? Commissioner Key? You're muted. You're muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Mackey? Commissioner Mackey? Okay, we'll come back. Commissioner
Yes.
Crawford? Thank you. Well, that's the delay. Commissioner Crawford?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And
Yes.
yes for Brendan Williams. Do you believe, number 2, the applicant demonstrates through documentation and or studies based on generally accepted engineering principles that adherence to the standard provided by this chapter would pose a threat to health and safety or would undermine a policy set forth in the comprehensive plan or the purposes underlying the standard? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
And Brenton Williams, yes. Number 3. Make sure I'm on the right one. Okay, do you believe the applicant consents to an alternative standard and the planning commission finds that such standard is consistent with the comprehensive plan, will protect the health, safety, and general welfare and is consistent with the purposes underlying the standard? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Go ahead and say Commissioner Mackey, and I'm going to keep going. By the time you say yes, we'll go through. Commissioner Mackey? Commissioner Crawford?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Yes, Brenton Williams. Do you believe, number 4, the economic burden imposed on the applicant to comply with the generally applicable standard outweighs the public purpose for such standard? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Yes, Brenton Williams. Then finally, do you believe compliance with the generally applicable standard is impractical due to unique topographical or other site conditions? Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawford,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
and yes, Britton Williams. So with that, I'll make a motion. Based on the findings of the 5 discussed criteria and voted on, I move that applicant MW 20-006 Sibley Bluff waiver, request of connectivity and block length of North Augusta Development Code, section 14.4, street types and design, and section 14.19.1 connectivity ratio be granted with the 3 conditions listed in staff report on page 9. That is the motion by Chairman Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Carter. Carter. And so go for a vote. Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawford,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Yes, Britton Williams, so it passes unanimously. Thank y'all. Okay. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, we are now, we are now at item 9. And I will need a motion to take this off the table of PP 20-006 Sibley Bluff subdivision. A request by Bill Hollingsworth for approval of a major subdivision preliminary plat for the Sibley Bluff subdivision. The request affects on approximately 5.68 acre portion of TPN 003-08-07-001, zone R14, large lot, single family residential. This is a consideration of that plan by the commission. Is there a motion to take this off the table?
So moved.
Commissioner Carter, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Crawford, and then a vote. Commissioner Key,
Yay.
Commissioner Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawford,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
and yes, Britton Williams. So, so at this point, I would ask Ms. Hodges, anything that you need to share with us that we haven't already looked at and understood?
Don't have anything to add. If you have any particular questions, I'll be happy to answer it.
Any questions for Ms. Hodges? Or I'll ask Justin, any questions for the applicant from Commissioner? Okay, then no questions. I would entertain a motion.
I can make a motion for adjourn.
Well, you can do that, but let's wait 2 more steps.
Okay.
Make the motion to, for this one first, then I may.
Yes, please.
I need a motion from somebody.
I move that we approve PP 20-0006, a major subdivision preliminary plat for Sibley Bluff subdivision.
Is there a second?
Second.
I second.
Second from Commissioner Carter, first from Commissioner Crawford. Okay, any other discussion? If not, we'll go down the roll. Commissioner Key,
Yay.
Commissioner Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawford,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Yes, Britton Williams. So it goes unanimously in your favor. So thank you, Justin. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, commissioners.
Yes, sir. Okay, staff reports.
Sure thing, and I just realized that I didn't advance through any of these. But in your packets, you should have the monthly report for September. If there's anything that jumps out at you, let me know. We remain quite busy despite the coronavirus. So we're just humming right along here. I have several project updates. I'll try to go as fast as I can so I don't keep you too long.
No, we're making good.
Just general city business. The Firehouse 1 relocation on Martintown Road went out for RFP this week, or maybe in last week. So that is out and in process. I don't anticipate that having to come back to the Planning Commission for any approvals. It's going to be a minor site plan. I will be doing a conditional use hearing on that in the next couple of weeks. We got to get it scheduled and get it advertised properly. So that's coming as well in case anybody asks you about it.
Tell us about what that is, if you don't mind. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I'm sorry, the conditional use?
Right.
Yeah, so for any public facility, they're required to get a conditional use permit from planning as well. And that's an administrative use permit that I do have to hold a public hearing for it. But we'll advertise and I'll let everyone know when that's going to be held. And that'll be advertised on our website and on Facebook and all of that stuff as well in the paper.
I assume it will be virtual.
That one I may do in person, just because the public may demand it.
That's why
That'd be a good one to do in person. Yes, that's a good.
That's why I was asking you.
Yeah, I'm trying to be cognizant of that in our actions. So, Martintown Road project, that the corridor study is still in progress. I did get some preliminary information from our consultant just this week, and I'll be meeting with him on Monday, or having a phone meeting with him on Monday to kind of talk it over. Hopefully, I really hope we can wrap this up really soon. I'm ready to be done with it. So more information is forthcoming on that shortly. In other kind of larger city business, the budget hearings are coming up next week, next Monday. So that will be in person. But that information should come out probably tomorrow. There may be a couple of other planning items on there. I have to wait and see, just like everybody else. So there's been a few that we've discussed. We'll see which ones are going to be held at the same time. Generally, when we do budget, we try not to add too much other stuff to it because the budget can take up a lot of time. So that being said, we are still moving along with the development code rewrite. We had a steering committee meeting on Tuesday. We talked about focus groups and who to invite to those focus groups and what groups to contact. We want the focus groups to be rather small, but we want them to be people who do have experience working with the development code, who can offer some insight into what it's like from an applicant's perspective. So if you all have any recommendations, please send them to me. I'll be happy to have those, and we'll forward them along to the consultant. They will be here November 17th, 18th, and 19th, I believe. We do have a planning commission meeting that week. So we will likely have a study session prior to our planning commission meeting where it's actually going to function as a focus group for the consultants as well. So I'll be in touch more about that when it gets a little bit closer. Our next meeting will be our business meeting for the year. So that's where we will adopt our calendar and elect leadership for next year. So y'all go on and start thinking about that.
We do that in November or December?
We can do it in December. We are doing we're doing the same thing for Board of Zoning Appeals in November, so I would prefer to keep it on kind of on the same schedule. And that
And
also
Brittany-
allows us, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say we can reelect you, Brittany, whenever you like.
No pressure.
I think we put it on. I think a little more.
How about
Do you
tonight?
have an idea yet on the
Let's
time?
go ahead and do it tonight.
Time yet for the study session? Like, is it going to be different times throughout the day, or?
Well, for the focus groups, it'll be different times during the day. For the planning commission, if we do it similar to a study session, we'll do it at the same time we do study sessions, which is 6 o'clock.
Okay. But do you know when you'll have an idea of when they would have those times set for the focus groups?
It's going to be in the next few weeks while they iron out who they're contacting and who's going to be participating.
Okay.
How many groups, and we've got a few more details to iron out about that.
So any names just need to be forwarded to you.
Just send them to me and tell me who they're supposed to represent. It may be that some of the general public stuff gets pushed a little further. There's going to be some other public input that will happen later. This is smaller group, more specific focus on the development code.
Okay.
The new website has been activated for the rewrite project, so that's currently up on the website as well, on the city website, northaugusta.net. One of the other projects we've been working on, kind of internally, the Knobcone Sidewalk project. The city engineer reported that we've received a conditional local project administration approval by SCDOT. So that means that we'll start to go into project scoping and some other agreements that we have to make with SCDOT, but this first big hurdle is done. So hopefully we'll get to see some action on that real soon. And I think that's all I have for you.
What do you think coming down the pike in that November meeting? You've got a lot in the works. Do you have any idea what we're going to be looking at this point, or is it too early?
Right this moment, we don't have anything in particular. We've had a slight lull in some of our applications, but that usually means that we will have a really heavy week the next week. So at the moment, we don't have any other subdivisions or anything like that coming down.
When we do the study session, do you think an hour will be sufficient time for the planning commission? Do we need to maybe make that a little longer, or do you think if we run a little over without a lot on the agenda, we'd be fine with that?
I hope that an hour will be enough time. So this will be a very structured and guided conversation.
Okay.
You'll certainly have time to make all the comments that you would want, but this is going to be something that will be pretty heavily facilitated.
Will we have information in advance about it, or they'll give us whatever we need at that time?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm assuming there will at least be an agenda issued for it.
All right. So that's going to be very important for everyone to go ahead and commit. That's November the 19th, right? Thursday, I think that's the 19th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead and that will be in person, right?
It will be in person.
All right.
And
So
I realize that's not ideal, but
that's okay. But we'll social distance. So go ahead, if you don't mind, all the commissioners, put that on your calendar, or go ahead and block out, let's just say 6 o'clock, because it's going to be very, very important that we have a good attendance there. Okay.
right.
And
it's probably going to be up in the Palmetto room where we have a lot more room to spread out.
Good. That's good.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a real good idea.
Can we open the door so we can get some of the outside air too? Because I'm extra cautious with my grandmother. So I would appreciate the doors being open.
Yes.
We're going to take care of you, Commissioner Crawford. Don't you worry.
Right.
It ain't me, it's my grandmama. If y'all want to answer to her, and Tim has been around my grandmother. Good luck with that one.
We open the doors.
Anything else for the good of the order. Any other questions from Ms. Hodges or anything else?
Can I go?
Okay. Libby, anything else?
I'm
All right,
good.
we stand adjourned. Thank y'all for your time tonight. Y'all be safe, okay?
All right, thank you, you as well.
I'll be good.
Be careful out there.